it's very likely going to be the largest onboarding into crypto we have seen so far. Sitting in the inside, I think that's just what's going to happen in the next 12 months.
This episode of Empire is brought to you by Quicknode. Quicknode is an end-to-end blockchain development platform that makes building Web3 apps super easy. No matter what you want to build, you can effortlessly develop any application by leveraging their elastic APIs. Go to quicknode.com, use code Empire. You'll get a free month on their feature-backed build plan. That's right. Go to quicknode.com. You'll get a free month to start playing around. You'll hear more about Quicknode later in the show. This episode is brought to you by Kwenta, the premier derivatives platform on Optimism that offers deep liquidity, low fees, and up to 50x leverage across 24 different assets. You'll hear more about Kwenta later in the show. All right, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Empire. We have Alex Blania, the co-founder of Worldcoin, joining us. Alex, how you doing, man?
I'm great. Thanks for having me. I'm really excited for this conversation today.
Yeah, of course. You guys have hubs all over the place. I know you are now global. So where in the world are you today?
Right now I'm in Berlin, but the team is mostly split between Berlin and San Francisco. We have
Nice.
we have another manufacturing spot in a smaller town in the middle of Germany, which is like its other crazy COVID story we can get to. But yeah, these are like the three right now.
Nice. Great, man. All right. So I think it'd be helpful. So I was, the backstory of this episode is that I was a very skeptical WorldCoin observer. Didn't know much about it except for some big headlines that Sam Altman started OpenAI and then got, in ChatGPT and got kind of scared about the implications of AI. So then started this other company called WorldCoin, and he reached out to you and you co-founded this thing called WorldCoin with him. And I was incredibly skeptical. And then I went to your office and you showed me the orb and we had a long conversation and you showed me the deck and all that kind of fun stuff. And it got a little more, I kind of understood the why a little bit more. So I think the big, WorldCoin is building this protocol to prove personhood and proof of humanity almost while preserving privacy. And I would like you to maybe start with where this idea came from in the first place and the origin story of WorldCoin, because I think that is necessary to set up this conversation. So maybe let's go there first.
Of course. So yeah, you got parts of the story right. So actually Sam started the company. I joined 6 months later. So Sam and Max Nordstrom was the third co-founder, started the company almost 3.5 years ago at this point. And back then I was in theoretical physics. So I got this message that Sam is working on this crazy project and I should consider joining as a software engineer back then, and then later became CEO. And so the original pitch, the original story was really around the fact, basically two big streams of thought. One is AI is going to change everything much more than people realize. And this is at this point a very common idea. 3.5 years ago, people made jokes about that. So this was much more controversial back then, kind of all the implications of AI. And the two big things that came up were, one, the necessity for a universal basic income that is non-government funded and kind of really can go globally. And this was one of the big motivations for Worldcoin to lay the technological foundation to make that happen. And then the other big thing, as you mentioned, is proving humanness on the internet is going to become this major topic, and it's going to be really, really tricky because you have intelligent agents on the internet that can behave like humans. So this was stream one, and the other thing is actually that I was very, very early in crypto with back then with Bitcoin and many other people in the team too. So we really do believe that the premise of this, where it all came from, this idea that you can create a more effective financial system for the world that empowers billions of people is incredible. And one of the things to truly accelerate this vision, we think, is to get to 1 billion people as quickly as possible, right? That can actually sign transactions, have a wallet, and can interface with each other. So with those two things, we started working on this idea to launch a token by giving ownership in it to every human being, just for being a human. And one of the big necessities that you truly have to solve to get there is proving unique humanness on the internet, because nothing right now really works globally and can get you there.
So is the problem that you're solving here the proof of humanness and the fact that like in 5 years we'll live in a world where you have no idea if you're interacting with a human online, or is that like a necessary thing that you had to solve in order to be able to give out tokens?
Well, it's both, right? Because so they kind of interact with each other very strongly. So you have actually, if you zoom out, Worldcoin is three things. You have a token, you have World ID, which is an actual identity protocol that builds on top of the idea of proof of unique humanness, and then the last thing is a non-custodial wallet. Right, these three things, and the protocol is an actual protocol, meaning other applications can connect to it as well. But if we start with the token and the proof of humanness, so let's say you want to launch a token that way, or you want to do an airdrop, to say it like that, you need to solve Sybil resistance first. And if you want to solve it in a global way, not only for the United States or Europe, you actually have to solve identity on a very fundamental level. And if you flip the perspective and you're about to launch proof of personhood for the world, you need a bootstrapping mechanism to get you there, and kind of to really align incentives of everyone to sign up for that. And that is a token, right? So both perspectives really reinforce each other. And we think create this like very powerful flywheel to get to 1 billion people as quickly as we can.
Yeah. Let's talk about proof of humanity and why that's important. So I think when you guys launched, it was like AI is going to take over and you'll need to know about humanity, like proof of humanness. And it didn't really make any sense to anyone. And then GPT-3 came out and everyone's like, oh my God, that was the first like big consumer thing of AI. I would say that was when like, everyone started talking about AI in like normal worlds, I'd call it. And then GPT-4 got even better. And I think maybe like, can you tell us what like GPT-5 or 6 or 7 could look like in order to back into why proof of humanity is actually a really important problem to solve?
Yeah, and interestingly, I think organizations like OpenAI will not be kind of the big problem here, right? Because there's other ways to deal with that. The problem is that all of this will be open source as well. So assuming where we are right now, so you have like very powerful and you almost have the spark of AGI already there. You have like truly intelligent systems in some sense. If you iterate that a couple of years in the future, and then if you also let these systems interact with interfaces, which is slowly starting to happen, so they can actually take actions online as a human could, and get more intelligent on the way, then what will happen is you as a user of the internet, you will have no idea anymore that you actually interface with a human being, right? And that can be it can go everything from annoying to an actual like big problem. Annoying in that sense, you're on Twitter and let's say you battle for like hours with this account, and it turns out that's a neural network, not a human being. That's not amazing. And I mean, even Elon was tweeting about this recently a lot, right? This problem of bots swarming the internet, but then problem also like it can get much more severe because these systems can, like without using like kind words, they can rip apart a lot of the infrastructure we currently have, right, in terms of identity and many things we do on the internet. So it's just gonna drastically accelerate as we go forward. And so quickly defining.
And Alex, just one question on that is like, do you think that they'll be able to? So like, will they be able to take action? So like, let me use. There's a lot of crypto listeners of Empire. Like, will they be able to yield farm on the next airdrop? Will they be able to like wash trade on Blur? Will like the GPT-7 or something be able to like farm for airdrop, farm an airdrop on Arbitrum or something like that? Is that
Yeah, totally. I am totally that's going to happen, right? Because to talk about the kind of the positive implications of that first is like it's going to go in the direction of work automation, right? So all the things that you right now do in Excel spreadsheets or whatever, like you will just interface with a neural network that does a lot of tasks for you. But the other consequence of that is is what you just said, right? You can yield farm, you can claim airdrops, you can even build up reputation on the internet, right? Which is one of these things that I think actually Web of Trust is becoming a non-credible solution anymore, because you have an agent that can just build out reputation, and you have like a bad actor that basically launches whatever, let's say 10,000 of these instances, and just say, hey, build up reputation on these 20 crypto networks over the next 6 months, and then you're there, right?
Yeah.
So that brings you to the point. So in a world where neither digital content, meaning video or images, nor intelligence, so like CAPTCHAs or more complicated actions, are discriminator anymore, what it means to be a human being on the internet, the only thing that you're left with really is to bridge to the real world, and kind of, in some sense, I'm a physicist, so I always talk like that way, but measure what it means to be a human being, right? And that is biometrics. So that's why we ended up with the conclusion that the only way to solve this problem fundamentally is to use biometrics and make it really privacy preserving through cryptography. And that was like a crazy statement 3 years ago, but I think at this point it sounds more reasonable.
All right, so you've got the orb, right? And everyone's scared of the Worldcoin is scanning everyone's eyeballs, and you get a token, and this is some big psyops thing to like a big scary privacy thing going on right now. So maybe let's get into the orb. Can you tell us the story of the orb? Why do you need an orb? Why do you need to scan my eyeball? Why can't you just scan my face or my fingerprint?
Sure. So I'm going to walk you through basically where we started, right? Because we didn't want to build a hardware device. This is like, it's not that we have been excited to build an orb 3 years ago, and we set up to do that. Actually, we built prototypes of pretty much everything else before that. We built prototypes of Web of Trust implementations, the major ones out there of, actually, let's take a step back. I think proof of personhood means someone is a unique human being on the internet. So you're unique and alive, right? That's the statement. And you have 3 big ways to do that. One is Web of Trust, meaning you build up reputation over time on the internet, and verifiable credentials, DIDs, soul-bound tokens, all of that falls to some degree, at least it touches this idea. The second one is biometrics, and the third one is you use the government identity system, so KYC, right? So these were the 3 big buckets, and we thought through all of them. And so Web of Trust is, we just didn't see it working. We talked to many of the most influential researchers at the time, and still do. And I think actually we will build a version of Web of Trust on top of Worldcoin, but you always need trusted seeds to make Web of Trust work. So it's really hard to bootstrap that. So we basically ended up with biometrics as the only way to get there, which was already a painful insight, right? Because we actually have a cryptography background and privacy background. It's not something we got like inherently excited about. But then within biometrics, the really hard thing, and why it's very different to the things you use in your daily life, let's say your iPhone, is that for proof of personhood, you have to solve the problem of deduplication. So you are unique under, let's say, 1 billion people, versus what your iPhone is doing. It is proving that you re-identify yourself, right? There's an embedding stored on your phone. You try to log in again, a new embedding gets created, matched to this previous one, and if that works, you can use your phone. And other than fraud, that's fairly easy because you don't need much information, because it's really hard for me to look exactly like you. But it's really easy for me to look like an arbitrary human being, basically. And so what that means, kind of an information theory, is that you need much more entropy about each user. You need much more information about each user, and face doesn't get you there. So just the amount of information you can get out of face is not enough to get to 1 billion plus people. The same is true for fingerprint, and the same is true for many other things. It's not true for DNA, but that's obviously even more scary.
Alex, why? What do you mean by it doesn't get you there? Like it doesn't, because there's like it's one in every 10 million or something fingerprints are alike, or like what do you mean it doesn't get you there?
Oh, that means that the error rates get too high. So you basically would just you would start rejecting a lot of people. And what is important to understand is you actually you hit a wall, right? Because you have an error rate that explodes almost exponentially. So you don't have like a constant error rate of 5%, but rather with every user you add, you have an exponentially increasing error rate. So let's say after 20 million or 50 million or 100 million people, you would just start rejecting everyone, right? So it's a really, really hard problem. And both fingerprint and face just don't have that property. You just cannot distinguish 1 billion or even saying like 3 billion, 4 billion people. It will just not work. You hit a hard limitation.
Okay. So face doesn't work, fingerprint doesn't work. So then you have to scan the eyeball. So then you guys set out to go build an eyeball scanner. And that was not an easy task.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, we started with testing. We started with testing all the ones out there. So we invested a lot of time in building the orb. So this is nothing we wanted to do yet again. So we started testing all the ones that are out there. But they're usually used in a different context. They're used either yet again for re-authentication, and they're used by government agencies, let's say, where you're in an airport and controlled environment where the lighting is perfect and there's no fraud, right? So we realized we have to build our own hardware by two big constraints. One is security, so making sure that the device is not easily frauded. So you show it a deep fake of a face or an eye, and you could easily fool the device. Or you attack the hardware. So everything around security. And the second big thing is everything around accuracy. So, and accuracy, you fundamentally have to have like a very high imaging quality. So we build our own lens, we build our own imaging sensor, not imaging sensor, but imaging board. So I can actually show you one if you want for a second.
Show me. Yeah, let's see it.
That's an orb from the inside. So you have basically a custom imaging board here in the front. Many fraud sensors that just make sure whatever you see is an actual human being. Then here
are those all cameras? What are we looking at here, Alex? Are those cameras?
So these are okay. Sorry, it's just like a little bit hard to maneuver, but you have infrared LEDs in 3 different wavelengths. So the first big thing is you image not the same way you do a photograph, but you image in infrared because fundamentally because very dark eyes are hard to image, right? So you use a different wavelength. And so that's basically your infrared flash, but you have them in 3 different wavelengths. So you can get more information out of it. And then here you have like fraud sensors. So you have thermal camera, time of flight, and here you have a mirror that is basically tracking, and a custom lens right behind that mirror. So the cool thing is all of the computation happens locally on a device. So we basically trained 7 neural networks that do all the job on the fly and calculate basically unique embedding of you on the device, sign it, and that's the only thing that actually leaves the device. So it's and then there's zero knowledge proofs that separate that from your wallet and all the actions you ever will do. So the only thing we or anyone else could ever prove is that you actually are unique or you have signed up before. Everything else is self-custodially with the user. So it's fundamentally built on top of Ethereum. It's the token is in ERC20, but then also the way we do the zero knowledge proofs, there's a Merkle tree on Ethereum mainnet. So this was like a lot, but quick overview.
How much did it cost to just build that one camera, or to build the scanner? What are we calling it these days? The orb. The
orb. Oh man, probably a total of $50 million. Wow. It was like it's by far the most cutting edge device to do that thing, and it's fully open source. So it was quite some effort.
Okay, walk me through where I think the big concern here. Okay, so you built this eyeball scanner. You've got your orb. They're pretty nicely designed, by the way. They look good.
Thank you.
But where does the data where does the data live? I think that's the overarching big scary question that everyone is asking, is where does the data live, and are you actually doing with the data what you say that you're doing with the data? So maybe you can just address that directly.
Of course. So you sign up. So first you download an app. Let's talk from the user perspective. How does it actually look like to sign up for Worldcoin? You download an app, and you actually did this, Jason. So you know it works. So you download an app, a non-custodial wallet. You click on a map. Hopefully there's a device somewhere near you. You go there and you click verify now. You show a QR code, and the device reads that QR code. And then 30 seconds later, you receive your World ID, which is actually a separate key pair. So it's a separate semaphore key pair. That semaphore is like this from the Ethereum Foundation, a project that we used to verify yourself against everyone else on the internet. And then you receive an Ethereum wallet where you receive the Worldcoin token itself. So you receive two different things once you sign up. And what actually happens during the sign up process is, first, the orb does a lot of liveness checks. So it makes sure that whatever we see is an actual human being versus a printed something or displays. Once that happens, all of that happens locally, so there is no data actually leaves the device. Once that happens, we image the eye, and the eye, because it has a lot of information in it, the muscle of the eye has a lot of information. And then a neural network calculates a unique embedding out of that image on the device, signs it, and that's the only thing that actually leaves the device. So we don't have like a database of biometric data or anything. And then what happens on the back end is a uniqueness check happens. And once that uniqueness check happens, it gets inserted into a Merkle tree. And then the user can prove after sign up with a zero knowledge proof that he is included in the Merkle tree. So user, you stay fully pseudonymous. And there's just no way to get around that.
So I went to, first off, I think people's privacy preferences are really funny. Like, and you've got me thinking a lot about this since we met in San Francisco. Like you look at a lot of people and everyone instantly hates on the orb, but meanwhile they're opening their iPhone 150 times a day and they're scanning their face and giving it to Apple. And even people who don't do the face scan on your iPhone. Have you ever heard of a license where you are giving the government your face ID every couple of years? So I think people's privacy preferences are pretty funny. But I will say I did go to so I went to Apple's Face ID and data privacy website, and it says their thing is Face ID data does not leave your device, and it is never backed up to iCloud or anywhere else. Like one simple sentence. That's never leaves, never goes to iCloud or anything else.
Yep.
On your guys' site, you said biometric data is encrypted and stored securely. Your biometric data is first processed locally on the orb and then sent via encrypted communication channels to our distributed secured data stores where it is encrypted at rest. Once it arrives, your biometric data is permanently deleted from the orb. So my understanding there is the data is going to a data store. And once it's in a data store, even if it's encrypted, it still can be hacked or lost or something of that sort.
Yeah.
You guys probably have amazing cryptographers and stuff, but there still is the opportunity for millions and eventually billions of people's private data to be lost. No.
So the default is actually, and you did this, the default is that this does not happen. So you have a screen where, because right now we're in beta, it's going to happen. It's going to stop soon as well, as you know, because we're right about to launch. That's why we talk, and that's why it's an exciting time. But so the default is that does not happen. So meaning everything gets computed locally on the device, and the only thing that leaves the device is the iris code. However, you have the option to kind of help us with training the neural network. So kind of help improve Worldcoin is on one of the screens. Less than 50% of the users actually do that. And then what you just said is true, right? Because there's a lot of neural networks happening, and we need to train them. We don't need to have the data after training is done, so we're going to delete everything. But right now, that's an option. So what you just quoted involves that training piece.
I see. So you're basically you give the user the ability to delete the iris image when signing up. The only thing that actually leaves in that scenario would be an iris code, which is really just like a random string that represents the person's uniqueness. And then after that, you guys, which we can talk about in a sec, is you guys make these zero knowledge proofs. You make zero knowledge proofs that you are a unique person using a private key that's associated with the string, which effectually is just telling you guys that I am a unique, real unique human being out of a set of like N registered users where you don't know any of them. Is that directionally correct?
Yeah, that's correct. And actually,
okay.
So we are still working through the decentralization roadmap. We're going to publish it more detail. We already published the first one a couple of months ago. But right now, where the backend is, that whole service has to be decentralized, right? Because eventually, the Worldcoin Foundation just sets the standard for how to build such a device and kind of which neural networks to use, but then other people should be able to connect their devices. And that comparison, the uniqueness check, has to be fully decentralized, right? So, but that means it actually will be in the public. So, because the only thing it is like it's from the perspective of, let's say, you would hack us and you would hack that service. The only thing you would have is a set of codes that are not attached to anyone. Right. So you actually could not do anything with that.
Yeah. Alex, why so I get why you can't use like a fingerprint and why you can't use a face scan, which then ended up leading to this iris scan. But my understanding is that in the US, the government's like wildly inefficient, obviously, and we all know that. But like there are some other countries where they have actually experimented with things like this. Like in Estonia, everyone has a digital card. In India, I forget the specific example, but I think they've done something very similar to this. So like, why can't, maybe you could talk through like your thoughts on, I think India's probably the best example. They've done something like this. Estonia's maybe hasn't done the like give you money for scanning something, but they've done something of this sort. Like why, what are your thoughts on those experiments and why can't you rely on government?
The short answer is you can rely on some governments, or you probably could. The question is then still if you should, which is like, I think one of the fundamental questions of why this whole space exists, right? Is maybe you shouldn't. So what Worldcoin is really doing is like I think it's taking, to flip it actually, something like World ID will exist, right? It will exist. You will have to verify on the internet that you are a human being, right? And Elon's version of you just pay $8 each month, I think, is a terrible solution for a number of reasons. Using government KYC will work for some countries. It will not work for the majority of the world, right? Because most countries just don't have a great identity system. So Worldcoin is doing that in a decentralized, open source, and privacy-preserving way. So I do think, or I hope it is the best way to address a really, really big problem in a provable way that is not dependent on governments. Aadhaar is what you just mentioned, actually. Aadhaar in India is actually did incredible things to the country, right? It really accelerated the development of the whole country. So they did something, as you said, very similar. Obviously, with very different privacy implications because they don't have zero knowledge proofs or any of that. But still, it was very empowering to many people.
Yeah. So what happened in India? So they my understanding is they issued a 12-digit like random number, which was kind of like this, like gave you this unique identity in India.
Yeah. So I think it happened in the early 2000s. But as you probably know, Balaji talks about that a lot. I think India is one of the countries with made like the biggest leaps in terms of infrastructure in the last few decades. And one of the big leaps they did is they built Aadhaar, which is an identity system that basically scaled to the whole country, 1.3 billion people, even the poorest people that have been cut out of everything. So before they did Aadhaar, I think 30 to 40% of the country were not banked fundamentally because they were poor or like live in very kind of very rural areas. And they rolled out Aadhaar to reach everyone. And so they used ours biometrics because they came to the same conclusion that that's the only thing that works at that scale, and enrolled 1.3 billion people at this point, almost the whole country. And then a couple of years later, on top of that, they built UPI, which is basically a payment network. And I think the most successful payment network we have right now on the world in terms of just transaction volume and things like that. So the big insight of Aadhaar, and the India stack, that's how they call this whole thing, is if you solve identity in a fundamental and inclusive way, it empowers a lot of payment and financial use cases on top of that. And those two things together really accelerate the whole economy. So it's a crazy success story in many ways.
I want to get back to one thing that I am thinking about from the beginning of this conversation that I don't fully understand, which is you talked about the benefits of, like, let's say I'm making up that GPT-6 or GPT-7 is the thing, but like, why is proof of humanity a problem? I don't, or like why is this such an issue? Because I understand like the benefits of having like a GPT-6 or a 7, but like, I just want to make sure I fully understand like why that's such an issue to solve.
Yeah.
Not just for, by the way, Alex, not just for Worldcoin. I know why you guys have to solve it, but like, why should we be thinking about like this proof of humanity issue?
So I do think pretty much. So right now, when you're on internet, I think the default assumption is what you interact with is a human being, right? That's a good default interaction. On Twitter, there's a lot of bots, but it's not crazy yet. The thing is, if you have these like intelligent systems and very capable systems, and you can use them to Sybil attack all kinds of services that we use, like you can start with social media, and maybe you want to flood social media with messages or political messaging that is just you want to emphasize, or you want to change, even you want to help change elections, let's say, right? All of this is like really bad stuff. It will be impossible to track any of that because these systems behave like humans, they tweet like humans. It's not like you cannot just have filters that detect these kinds of people, right? So that's the social media context, which I think is very easy to understand. There's a lot within the crypto space that I think is very easy to understand, where yield farming, airdrop claiming, all of those things, building up reputation. So it's just very foundational to your online identity that you are a human being, and that should not get compromised.
I met with the chief data officer at like a top, I don't know, they're probably like a top 15 bank or maybe top 20 bank, just by like size, like global top 20 bank. And he said that their number one issue that they're worried about, not in a 1 to 2 year span, but in like a 5 year span, is proof of humanity. And that was a very interesting to hear him say that. All right, quick break from the show. There is this kind of overused cliche saying in crypto, but it's true. Bear markets are building, and everyone tells you that and everyone knows it. What people don't know is that if you're building apps in crypto and building apps in Web3 without using Quicknode, you are building on hard mode. So Quicknode is this amazing blockchain development platform. It reduces costs, streamlines the time to market for your app, and it offers consistent performance at scale. For folks that have built apps, you will know that there are a couple key points here. One, Quicknode offers unlimited endpoints across 18 different chains and 35 different networks. They have response times that are 2.5 times faster than any of their competitors, 99.99% uptime, and a dedicated 24/7 customer support team. If you've been listening to Empire for a while, you might know that I am no Gigabrain developer, but I do know a lot of devs and a lot of great product teams at other places. So when I see Coinbase and Twitter and Adobe and OpenSea and Dune Analytics all leveraging and trusting Quicknode to power their business, that's when we get excited, and that's when we want to partner with them. They're the best solution for any leading crypto and Web3 company that is seeking an end-to-end blockchain development platform right out of the box. So my message to you, get off hard mode, let Quicknode handle the blockchain infrastructure, let Quicknode handle the security, let Quicknode handle the performance, while you focus on building beautiful products for your users. Visit quicknode.com, super easy. You can use code EMPIRE. You'll get a free month on their build plan. So don't forget to use code EMPIRE. Santi and I got to get credit for this one so they know that we sent you, and you will get a first month free. Hope you guys enjoy it. This episode is brought to you by Kwenta. Trade smarter with Kwenta. Kwenta is the premier derivatives trading platform on Optimism that features deep liquidity, low fees, and up to 50x leverage across 24 different assets, all powered by synthetics. If you want to trade crypto, Forex, or commodities on-chain, Kwenta is the platform for you. It's built for both the casual degen and advanced traders. It offers stop losses, limit orders, cross-margining, and a whole bunch of other advanced order types. And unlike most of today's Web3 products, Kwenta has a super easy to use interface, including a position dashboard, charts, and a leaderboard for a seamless experience. Go to Kwenta.io. That's Kwenta.io right now. Tell them we sent you. Tell them Santi sent you. Tell them Yeno sent you. Tell them Empire sent you. Kwenta.io. Hope you guys enjoy. Okay, so what is the crypto stack here, Alex? And why does there need to be? Why? I think maybe we could start with like, why do you need to build this on crypto? Like on crypto rails, and then we can get into like, would love to learn about the actual crypto stack.
Sure. So why do you need to build it on crypto rails is just the whole thesis of the space, right? Like you want to make it decentralized, you want to make it resilient against all kinds of attacks, you want to make it provable, you want to make it open source, right? Like this whole why we are here in the first place in the space are all the things that such an important infrastructure piece should be. Right, identity on the internet that billions of dollars or billions of people will rely on at some point should be fundamentally decentralized and provable and open source and all of these things. So that's fundamentally why we build on crypto. And then the other thing is like identity and finance are very closely connected. And so we have a non-custodial wallet that lets you send crypto. It uses Uniswap. It's fully built on DeFi, and you can deploy that globally, right? You can deploy financial services immediately globally. That's the dream. So that's why we use crypto.
Nice. And then, so what's the stack? What do you?
The stack is the stack is three things, right? So World ID, World App, Worldcoin. Worldcoin, the token itself will be in ERC20. It's going to be deployed on Optimism at launch. Then you have World ID, which is fundamentally it's a Merkle tree, and you prove that you include it in the Merkle tree, and that's deployed on Ethereum mainnet. Of course, there will be bridges to all other major L1s, right? So there's no reason why it shouldn't work on Solana, and you can do the Merkle proof. And then the app itself is a non-custodial Ethereum wallet. You have two separate key pairs in there, one for your World ID that you can use to verify the different services of zero knowledge proofs that you're you. And the other thing is just a fundamental Ethereum wallet to receive your Worldcoin and other tokens in there. And then we let you swap tokens with Uniswap in there as well. It's like Gnosis safe wallet. So that's like a few headlines.
Nice. Why did you guys choose Optimism?
Just fundamentally aligned with our values, I think, is a big one. I mean, Arbitrum was also like a big favorite, but we've been close to Liam and the crew since like a while, so we decided to go with Optimism.
Nice, cool. What about so within the wallet space, one big issue, like taking Worldcoin out of this, but like one big issue in the wallet space is like wallet recovery, I would say.
Yep.
And just kind of like the clunkiness and the UI UX problems of wallets. Like, how do you guys think about wallet recovery, especially because when you start thinking about wallet recovery, in this case of Worldcoin, there's the second order impact of like, is there an ability of people not to just get access to money, but to get access to someone's identity, which is a really scary idea. So how do you think through this?
Yeah, so first we split up the problem in two different things. One is your recover your World ID, and then the other thing is recover your wallet, right? Your financial wallet. And those two things are actually fully separate for a reason, right? In our case. So the financial wallet, we will use the same thing as the same primitives as everyone else. You will not be able to recover that with your biometrics in any way or shape, because we think that would be dangerous fundamentally for privacy, because what that would mean is that you would need to link your biometrics to your wallet, and then on the wallet, transactions of course are transparent, so that's not great. However, your World ID will be able to recover by just showing up in front of an orb. Simply speaking, there's like more steps to that, but you can just basically recover that if you have lost access, or even you have sold it to someone and you want to get it back. So there's like a lot of game theory behind that part, but yeah.
What's been the toughest issue in terms of building all of this? Is it the orb? Is it this identity recovery? What's been the hardest thing?
Well, we went through a lot of different phases over the time. So definitely for the first 2 years, the hardest part was the hardware, because we had to build everything from ground up. And then we, like, once we have built it, we went into production. And one of the big things I learned, having a really nice prototype and then producing it at scale, are two very different problems. So that certainly was the biggest issue until now. Then going from there, the other thing was actually understanding how to build the wallet, because we fundamentally didn't want to build a wallet yet again. We actually we wanted to use others, but if you're actually on the ground, you talk to a lot of users, you understand first that most users have never heard about crypto, and two, that the things that you and I understand really well are completely new to those users, right? So you cannot use, as much as I love Rainbow, you cannot use Rainbow and deploy that to my mother and ask her just like use that in your daily life. That will not work. So you have to just dump it down, make it much simpler. So we basically deployed product teams on the ground in the markets we are active right now for beta, which is Portugal, Kenya, Argentina, and India, Bangalore and Delhi, and just like iterated on the product to make it easy to understand and easy to use. And of course, we're still not there, and it's going to take a long time. But that was like the last couple of months was just really getting into that. And then I think going forward, the biggest challenge will be around the operations, right? Because you have to send these orbs globally, you have to deploy them in all large cities, and you have to operate a fleet of that. So this is going to be a logistical nightmare, but we're going to get it done. So that's, I think, going forward, the biggest thing.
And if I remember it correctly, when you explained it to me, it's almost like a franchisee model where people can make money by putting orbs around the world, or in their cities and in their towns. Did I get that right?
Yeah, I mean, it's yet again, it's the early stages of a decentralized model, right? Because you don't want to have a centralized entity that sends these orbs out and operates them, but rather you want to have a way for people globally to operate these devices and get incentivized by the protocol to verify people, right? So that's how it should work. You should be in Lisbon and say, I want to operate a Worldcoin orb, receive it, verify, and then receive Worldcoin with every sign up you do. So in some case, I think how you should see it is there's going to be a Worldcoin token, and Bitcoin used 5% of the yearly issuance to secure the network. I think Worldcoin will use 5% to grow the network in terms of the user base. And I think that's going to be quite crazy to see, because we are already at 1.6 million users, almost 600,000.
You have 1.6 million users right now?
Yeah, we have so people that verified, and we have around 600,000 MAUs in the app. So it's already, I think, the fourth largest wallet in the world right now.
1.6 million users who have scanned with the orb and have set up and have verified their identity. Wow. Yeah. That would make, if you take out the big crypto exchanges, that would probably make you guys a top 5 crypto project in terms of monthly actives and daily actives.
Yeah, and that's without even trying. So right now we are only at 200 active devices still, because it only makes sense after full launch to truly scale. And so we are now weeks away from launch.
Launch means taking it out of the limited availability, taking it out of beta, and launching the app globally, right?
And launching also, I mean, World ID will be fully open, so you can, as a service, you can just integrate with that. We have some cool partnerships there to announce over the coming months. Then it means the app is globally available, and then the last thing is it means the token goes on mainnet as well. So these are the 3 things. Everything goes out of beta, and then of course in the months after we go from 200 to the 2,000 devices we've produced, which will already make a lot of noise in terms of just throughput and active users.
Yeah. What's the revenue model here, Alex?
Well, I mean, it has to be, again, it has to be a protocol. So that means that this will not be the case in the beginning, but at some point, once everything is truly at scale and people really use it for important services, what the community can decide or the governance can decide at some point is to engage, for example, fees around World ID. So let's say users log into your service, maybe you have to pay fees in Worldcoin to do that. Then, of course, we can launch our own L2 at some point, because as you alluded to, it will likely be a very large or the largest user base, which itself is very interesting. So these are only two things that come to mind. And of course, the wallet itself will have a lot of activity in it as well.
So you could go down almost like the Coinbase route, and launch something like Base, which is built on the OP stack.
Yes, we could.
What's but by your smile, I got to ask, what's the timeline on that one?
As soon as possible. We will talk about it soon. It's not right around the corner, but it's going to happen.
Yeah, nice.
It's going to happen.
What have you thought about the MEV model of L2s?
Not really. At this point we are like, these are the things I worry about in 2-3 months. Right now I'm mostly on World ID, the World app. I travel a lot. I talk to a lot of users still. So it's been a crazy couple months.
Yeah, man. Seems like it. There was this Edward Snowden tweet that I'm curious about what you think of it, which like was one of the big like viral Worldcoin tweets, I'd say. So it was when Sam tweeted out in October 2021. He said, introducing Worldcoin, a new cryptocurrency that will be fairly distributed to as many people as possible. And then Edward Snowden kind of quote retweets and says, this looks like it produces a global hash database of people's irises scans for fairness, and waves away the implications by saying we deleted the scans. And he says, yeah, but you saved the hashes produced by the scans, hashes that match future scans, don't catalog eyeballs. I think I got this answered before, but what's your like simple response to Snowden's criticism here?
So there's two things. Like, one is he actually understood the blog post back then wrong, and to be fair, it actually pointed towards us. I think we didn't write it clearly enough back then. So there's like one part of actual technical misunderstanding back then. I would love to talk to him about this at some point. But then there's this other thing, which honestly, it's just the case is we use biometrics and we generate iris codes, and we think that's the only way to solve a really hard problem. And of course, I talk to all the critics I can find at this point, right? And some people just say like, hey, you should not use biometrics for anything, or you should not normalize biometrics, and this is bad, right? All of those things, like that's true. And if other people find better solutions, I would be excited to see that. But that's just the case.
Yeah. What have government folks thought about this? And like, how has the government reaction differed from maybe a country like the United States to somewhere like in folks in Africa that you've spoken with, for example?
Yeah. So interestingly, the majority of the discussion around this has always been around crypto assets more than anything, right? Because that's what governments have opinions on right now. Is they just fundamentally dislike crypto or don't want to have it in their country or something. And so, interestingly, the wallet part of Worldcoin was like the biggest discussion point at this point. Is don't bring crypto to this country, don't normalize it or something. But I mean, everything has been super friendly at this point. So we never really had kind of serious discussions around proof of person. The discussion was mostly around like, wow, holy shit, you guys have been like 3 years early to something that we are just about to understand. Mostly.
Yeah, cool. Let's talk UBI. UBI is starting to feel like this inevitable thing. What is your take on UBI and how it plays in with Worldcoin?
It's one of the like the original paper I received from Sam. So like imagine this moment. I was like sitting at Caltech. I was doing theoretical physics all day. I was like far from startups or crypto back then. And I received that email saying Sam is working on this project. And I think the original paper was stating a path to non-state UBI for the world or something like that, financed by AI. So this was like one of the big initial motivators. We then actually avoided talking about it for a while because I think it has this political touch that I think actually doesn't apply, because if a technology generates UBI, it's very different than a government redistributing economic benefits through taxes. It's like a very different situation, and so you actually have to treat it very differently. But so yeah, what I think about UBI is I think it's it will have to happen in one way or another in the coming decades. It's really hard to say when, and it's really hard to say in which context, but I think it's incredible when it happens as well, right? And that's well done, because it can lift billions of people out of poverty. It can just elevate the living standard of the world by a centralized technology that generates just like a lot of revenue in that sense, which is AI. So just if you fast forward, I don't know, 5 years, and you imagine you have wherever we are, GPT-7 at this point, and that generates like a lot of economic value by just solving all of these problems, writing software and deploying all of these different things. Then you have like a very centralized thing that generates a lot of revenue and a lot of value. And so having a way to distribute that to the whole world, I think is going to be incredible. And to do that, you need two things. You need a way to make sure everyone can verify you need at any system, and then you need a way to economically reach them. So you need money. So that's Worldcoin. you have Worldcoin and Worldcoin.
This is either the scariest thing I've ever seen, Alex, or this is like makes mainstream internet money wallet like available for everyone, makes UBI possible at global scale, enables. We haven't even talked about voting, but like voting is a bigger and bigger and bigger issue in elections these days, and it enables like trustless digital voting, and it builds proof of humanity in an age where AI makes disinformation easier than ever. And I got that from this guy Cedric Makes on Twitter, and I think he nailed it. And yeah, I don't know. Man. I don't even have a question there. I just,
I would like to hear why you think it could be the scariest thing, actually. If you have anything to point to, and we can talk about. But
the scariest thing is because when you tell me that what you guys are doing with privacy and with data, I have to trust you. I am not smart enough and don't understand ZK proofs well enough and don't understand the technology well enough. So I have to nod my head and be like, that sounds right. That sounds right. And then there's also the element of like, I hope that's what you're actually doing. And like, I've met you before, seem like a trustworthy guy, but like there's an element of trust there. And I think one of the things that makes crypto so great is like there's it, like starting with Bitcoin first, is like you're able to remove that trust layer. And the trust gets put into code, and it gets taken out of like people's hands. And I feel like this reintroduces a lot of people. So that's why I'm thinking about this in that way.
Well, I mean, that the same is true here, right? Everything, it kind of comes in steps, but right now the majority is already open source. So that means maybe you yourself cannot verify, but other people in the community can verify what we're doing. And actually, I hope they do. And it starts to happen much more. People actually start getting into repos and start reviewing things. The hardware is mine is like one small security board that is going to come in the coming months. Everything is open source, so you can check everything. Of course, like what then people that kind of operate in that space on a more technical level will say like, well, but it's much more complicated because you have hardware devices and they cannot verify that these hardware devices actually run that firmware that I've seen, right? And that's also that is solvable. But so yes, of course, it's like fundamentally it's much harder than Bitcoin. We have like a fairly simple contract that you can verify. It's a much more complicated tech stack, but all of the other things you just stated will be true here too. So it's all of this is intended as a protocol, not a company, right? Because then I think it would be.
Yeah, I saw you guys launched the protocol.
Yep.
Sam had a good post, or I'm sure you guys wrote it, but he shared it on Twitter, like humanness in the age of AI, the path to the open and permissionless identity protocol. That was a good post.
Yeah.
So
yeah, thank you.
Anything else that we're missing? Anything that you think is like people have uninformed opinions on, or things that you're really excited about that you guys can things that can be unlocked by Worldcoin that we haven't talked about?
So like I think just fundamentally it's very likely going to be the largest onboarding into crypto we have seen so far. Like that's sitting in the inside. I think that's just what's going to happen in the next 12 months. And that is incredibly important in like 1,000 different ways. So we are here and we're like, we talk. So just like if you have concerns or if you have like improvements on our code or something, please just engage and help. And well, I'm just super excited about everything that has happened. It's been like this crazy journey from reading a super abstract and crazy paper 3.5 years ago that sounded like it really sounded like a joke almost. Like I was like dropping out of Caltech for that felt like a mad decision back then. To now something that I think has a lot of technological foundation and is about to launch soon. So I think it's going to be a crazy and incredible journey. And I hope people give us a chance and engage with it.
Amazing, man. Well, how many people work there right now? Or you work at the foundation and on the protocol and on everything?
So it's a total of 170 people at this point. Between it's global at this point, but the majority.
I think it was 150 when I saw you last. So
we grow. Yeah.
Good stuff, man. Cool. Well, I appreciate you coming on and answering some of the tough questions. For folks to learn more about Worldcoin, just go to the website, download. The app is still in test flight, is my understanding, but you guys are launching it soon. What's the action to take here?
Yeah. So when this podcast streams, you will be able to download it because it's we're launching it next week. That's 1. 2, follow us on Twitter, join the Discord, and check out the website.
Amazing, man. Alex, awesome. I have a feeling this will not be the last time you're on Empire, so I appreciate you coming on, man.
Thank you so much.
All right. Be well.